Harry's wife. The Miscarriage burial. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. We have now perhaps one of the most ridiculous disclosures that has come from the leaked copies of Spare. It's covered in a variety of places, but I'm taking it from Us magazine, which runs in an article by Jana Grebenyuk with this headline: Prince Harry reflects on Harry's wife's miscarriage, details the days after they left the hospital. In his upcoming memoir, Spare, Prince Harry penned an emotional passage about the days following Harry's wife's miscarriage. The couple, who got married in 2018, first became parents when the suit's alum, 41, gave birth to son Archie in 2019. Following their decision to step back from their senior roles within the royal family, Harry and Harry's wife moved from the UK to California. In November 2020, the Duchess of Sussex opened up about her pregnancy loss in an op-ed for the New York Times. After changing Archie's diaper, I felt a sharp cramp. I dropped to the floor with him in my arms, humming a lullaby to keep us both calm. The cheerful tune, a stark contrast to my sense that something was not right, she wrote, noting that her son was 18 months at the time. I knew, as I clutched my firstborn child, that I was losing my second. I felt the clamminess of Harry's palm and kissed his knuckles, wet from both our tears. Staring at the cold white walls, my eyes glazed over. I tried to imagine how we'd heal. Now let's deal with this, which has often been referred to as the miscarriage. Miscarriages are pretty common, but from the discussions that I've had with people, many people don't actually realise how common they are until one actually occurs. Many people have miscarriages and don't even realise that they were pregnant, and therefore don't even realise they've had a miscarriage. They think, for instance, their period has come early. In other instances, some people have a number of miscarriages. As I recognise, people are upset by this because they've lost a child that they wanted. Nevertheless, this recollection from Harry's wife doesn't really ring true. Why? Well, first of all, it's written in the usual stylised manner of Harry's wife. Now, you might say, well, HG, isn't that the way that she just reports things? It is, but it doesn't necessarily mean that what's occurring actually happened. She describes it in a way that she would imagine it to be, rather than it actually happened. I don't imagine that anybody who's experienced a miscarriage suddenly decided, I'll start humming a lullaby, and there was thinking, I knew as I clutched my firstborn child that I was losing my second. And then also, what's rather strange about this passage is Harry suddenly seems to appear that she was changing a diaper, and then all of a sudden she felt the cramping sensation, and then all of a sudden Harry's palm turned up, and his hand was already wet from both our tears. How? He didn't know what was going on. What? She sort of felt a sharp cramp and dropped to the floor. And what? Harry immediately thought, she's having a miscarriage. I defy you to find any man that would immediately assume that was the case. More likely to go, what's the matter? Is your onion bargee repeating on you? So for him, all of a sudden, to work out that her falling to the floor means that she's having a miscarriage, which means that she's losing their child, and that sets him off crying. Bear in mind, this is the man who only cried once over his mother's death. Beggars belief, to be quite frank. And of course, adding in this, staring at the cold white walls, my eyes glazed over, I tried to imagine how we'd heal. I defy you to find anybody that's experienced a miscarriage who goes, I've got to think about how I'd heal. your immediacy is thinking, oh shit, am I losing my child? I better get to hospital, or what's going on? Not, how am I going to heal from this? But again, you see, this is Harry's wife's sort of pseudo-optimistic approach to everything, of healing and growing, etc. Accordingly, the way that it's described makes one seem that either it just didn't happen, or she suffered a miscarriage, but it didn't happen in the way that she describes, and she then writes about it afterwards in a way to try and make it seem almost stylized as part of the magical thinking that she engages in. The article continues. Harry and Harry's wife offered a candid look at how they dealt with their loss while filming their Netflix docuseries. When I reveal things that are moments of vulnerability when it comes to having a miscarriage and maybe having felt ashamed about that, like, it's okay, you're human, it's okay to talk about that, the former actress who welcomed daughter Lily in June 2021 explained in a December 2022 episode about the decision to go public with her miscarriage. And I could make the choice to never talk about those things, or I could make the choice to say, with all the bad that comes with this, the good is being able to help other people. That's the point of life, right? Is connection and community. Now, of course, the other point about all of this is the sharing of this information. As we know, with Harry's wife, whatever happens to her has never happened to anybody before. She's the first person to ever talk about this. That's the way that she frames all of these events, to make them seem like they're groundbreaking, pioneering, because she is just so special. There's also an observation that this is a private matter. Why do you need to share it? We know that because she's a narcissist, she needs to share it because she has no boundary recognition. She has a sense of entitlement to talk about these things. She has a lack of accountability for her behaviours, as you know, in parts passing in relation to Chrissy Teigen. She put up pictures of her having the miscarriage, although later on she then described it as an abortion. She doesn't even seem to understand what it is that she's doing. But once again, in that respect, Chrissy Teigen had to spread it all around the world on Instagram. Harry's wife is doing likewise. They both think that they're doing it for the purposes of bringing attention to such matters. But first of all, it's not like it's never happened before. It's not like it's not talked about. But they both, of course, think that they're very special people and that they're doing some real good by making mention of this. Whereas most people are going, look, love, plenty of people have miscarriages and they don't bang on about it in the way that you do across social media. And of course, the reason they're doing that is to assert control over their audience, to draw fuel from them, to manage the facade in the case of Harry's wife. And so the fact that she puts this out there in the first place shows a lack of boundary recognition, her sense of entitlement and facade management, and the event itself is also questionable. Now, there's more, however, because we were aware of this miscarriage incident and the way it had been described, which had caused a lot of scepticism previously. But now, Harry has written in Spare the following. We left the hospital with our unborn child, a tiny package. We went to a place, a secret place only we knew, the Duke of Sussex 38 wrote in an excerpt, which Us Weekly can exclusively reveal. Under a spreading banyan tree, while Harry's wife wept, I dug a hole with my hands and set the tiny package softly in the ground. I don't believe that happened for an instant. Where on earth would a hospital let you walk out with a miscarriage, with an unborn child as he describes it? They just would not allow that to happen. Indeed, as I understand it to be the case, that often following a miscarriage, the lady has to undergo a D&C. So she has a general anaesthetic, has the D&C, and then recovers from that. Nothing's handed over. You're not given anything. Your innards have basically been sucked out and sent off to be incinerated. So to suggest that there was a tiny package for them to take away doesn't seem to fit with usual procedures that are adopted in these cases. Furthermore, even if you were, and I know in certain instances and where there's a stillbirth, that in those instances, of course, the mother has to go through actual labour and then is allowed to hold the stillborn child. And then there is appropriate arrangements for a funeral, etc. But the impression one gains here is that this was not a stillbirth, but was a miscarriage. There is a significant difference. And therefore, to suggest that they were allowed to take away the unborn child that had been miscarried just doesn't stack up with usual medical procedure. Furthermore, and I'm no lawyer, but I would expect that that would break the law with regard to removing the unborn child from a hospital, and also to carry out this form of burial also. So to my mind, this is utter nonsense. And again, it's done to elicit sympathy, and it's heavy with the hand of Harry's wife, because this is the kind of melodramatic claptrap that she subscribes to talk about her loss and that it was buried under a banyan tree. She's probably read this somewhere in some kind of novel and then has purloined this by way of character trait acquisition. It's utter nonsense, and it makes a mockery of those that have experienced miscarriages and their own grief. Of course, it's no surprise, because Spare is full of nonsense that has been propagated by the hand of Harry's wife as part of her management of her own facade to make her look like the eternal victim and hard done to and a decent person, and as we know, to make Harry look entirely stupid. This just comes across as absolutely ridiculous and an out-and-out lie. Why has Harry done this? Well, first of all, did he know that this has been included in the publication? Possibly not. Or if he did, why has he gone along with it? Well, quite simply, we know that he's so in the grip of his wife that he's gone along with exposing his frostbitten penis, the fact that he killed 25 Taliban, that he's taken drugs, that he got shagged in a field, that he apparently had a scrap with his brother and lost, and had his necklace broken. So with all those other disclosures, it's hardly a surprise that he would also disclose something like this, distasteful as it appears. Again, he doesn't recognise how it makes him look, because it's clear to anybody with brain cells that this must be a lie. It also comes into question that if it were true, then he must have broken the law, and where does that leave him? It undermines his credibility once again. She includes it because she wants people to feel sorry for her, but once again, people will not do so because they will focus on the lie that's being told rather than the pity play that it actually is. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.